One thing I want to touch on about my experience surviving narcissistic abuse is that the narcissist is very in tune to your environment, very in tune to what you've come through in order to be able to triangulate and reinforce that the problem is you. So let me put this in example. I come from, a really traumatic background. And though I'm a practicing attorney and, outwardly seem really, really successful, my husband knew a lot of my vulnerabilities and he was able to use those against me, right? So I've struggled with anxiety and depression my whole life. And so he was able to say, like, look at you, like, you're a mess. It's not me, you're a mess. Who's the one with mental illness? Not me, you. So clearly, Joyce, you're the problem. And so because he was able to kind of like weaponize my vulnerabilities, I was not believed for so long when I would say, this is what I'm going through with this person. And for years, I would go to resources and try to get help. And the number one thing I would hear is, well, he's not hitting you. That was number one. And so I started to doubt my very own real experience with this person, to the point where, I started to create this fantasy of us so that I could live with us. And also at the same time, I was consistently working on me because, of course, I'm hearing I'm the problem. And he would always be like, well, aren't you the problem at work? Aren't you the problem? Mind you, I wasn't working in my purpose. So I'm working, at the time I wasn't working as an attorney. I hadn't gotten my license yet. I actually just got my law license 8 months ago. So I'm working as a teacher. And so I'm struggling in that because that's not what I trained to be. I'm struggling in these spaces that weren't meant for me. So he's able to weaponize all these difficult experiences. He's like, isn't your family not speaking to you? Even though I come from, kind of a traumatic family experience. So he's able to weaponize my vulnerabilities. And so I'm consistently looking at myself like, yeah, I'm the problem. You're right. You're my savior. You're this shining star. So the emotional abuse, I'm like, is that emotional abuse? Like when he would yell at me, he'd be like, I'm yelling at you because you frustrate me. So because I accepted like this really volatile environment in one space, I began to accept it in all other spaces. And I started to say, I'm the common denominator in all of this. During the pandemic, I was like locked in with a monster. But then I started to even question that, like, well, I'm the common denominator in this dynamic. What finally gave me the courage to leave, and I don't even know where that came from, was, on October 21st, I just was so tired of just being like yelled at, number one. I had the flu and I was just like, I literally have been so silent now. It can't possibly be me. And then he took credit for that. He was like, the only reason we don't yell or argue is because I'm the one that stays quiet. And I was like, wait a minute, but that's me. I also began to suspect that there had to be someone else that he was, another supply that he was engaging with, because at this point he wasn't coming home until like 5 a.m. sometimes, and I could just see where he was reading my messages and ignoring me, and I was just in so much pain. I literally just left the home to get away from the pain. The home was a hotbed of pain for me, and I had always said, I don't have the courage to leave this space. I can't leave this space. I'll never be able to leave him. To the point where I was just like, and mind you, when I left, it wasn't to me. I didn't feel like there'd have permeance to it. But when I left at the time, I was so angry and in so much pain. And then subsequently, my suspicions about his affair were verified. And the story on how I found out he was having an affair is not one I choose to recount because it's just so painful. And it felt like just a deep, like ripping of a wound to learn that someone that you literally had loved and alternately hated, right? Because at this point, it's no longer love. It's just you feel like so trauma bonded and so anchored in the trauma that there's like, I'm not thinking there's a way out of this. Because he had convinced me for so long, you're lucky that I'm with you. You're lucky that someone tolerates you. In fact, his last words to me were, no one's going to want you. Like, you're 55, which I'm not 55. I'll be 55 in August. But it's funny because the new woman that he's seeing is 48, so, or 47, right? So it's just like now all of a sudden my age is at issue, right? Whereas my beauty has never been, right? So he's like, oh yeah, you're beautiful, but you're old. It's like he's just flinging anything at me that he can. And this was always the case. But now he's a fully engaged monster. And this was always the case. But now it's just like he has no need not to have the mask fully on. Everyone can see him now. Or at least I believe so. Right? And so my survival has been like, this is like my battle cry. My need to survive now is like my battle cry. And it is also in that instance so important for me to not make my story about him. Like, I don't want him to be in every post, every resounding. I don't want to do story times about him and his affair, because then it's like, you're not healing from something for me if your story is, I don't want him to be the genesis of my rebirth, if that makes sense. I don't want him to be the soil from which I sprout. Although in some way, I guess good things do sprout from shit. But I don't want him to be the shit from which I blossom, right? If that somehow makes sense. You know, and I questioned, did I love him for 6 years, or did I just abide by him somehow? Was I surviving him for that 6 years? You know, I didn't even know what the word narcissist really meant until like the last year and a half, not even that. But I knew that there was something inherently wrong in our house. And I begged him for like the last 3 years to get therapy, because there was a broodingness and a darkness in the house. Because the moods would change like that. You know, I'd be in a room minding my business and he'd just come in and tell me to turn the lights off. There'd be odd reasons on why I couldn't put flowers on the table. You know, there was money that I gave him that was unaccounted for. There was the 2 years that he didn't work. And then I would remember literally begging him, don't get me back. There would always be times when I'd be like, please don't get me back. And then there would be the silent treatments. Like he literally, I would like sometimes be like, please just speak to me. And I always felt punished. And I always felt like if I apologize and gauge the temperature, then I'll be okay. But in the end, I realized my compliance didn't keep me okay. And I guess I just wanted to share that. I just wanted to share that. And I just wanted to share that, you know, today I'm okay. I'm going to do some breath work now. I was in court all day, and I feel great when I can be the voice for people and advocate for them. And I think I'm pretty awesome that I'm able to fight for folks while I'm fighting for my own life. So this is me, and this is day I don't know what in my captain's log, but please keep following me, because I'm holding on to y'all. Hold on to me.